If there's one thing both Buffalo Sabres and Vancouver Canucks fans can agree on, is that Ryan Miller is awesome. Okay, I guess you could also say expansion bros because they both entered the league in 1970, but today I wanted to talk about Ryan Miller and how he sort of relates to the modern picture of Vancouver Canucks goaltending because of some comments that he made on who is currently running the Vancouver Canucks crease. Now, just before we get into those comments, I wanted to dive into Miller specifically because Ryan Miller, if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan of like the past 7 years, you're probably pretty familiar with what he did with the Vancouver Canucks. Now, I've always gone out there and said that because Ryan Miller, in the stint that he had with Vancouver from 2014 to 2017, was so good, he actually was sort of a problem for Vancouver because he was so good to the point that the Canucks, Jim Benning, Francesco Aquilini at the time, they refused to go into a quote-unquote real rebuild because of the success that Miller provided the team. Now, that might be hyperbolizing it a little bit, but Vancouver had themselves some very good goaltending in Ryan Miller after wrapping up what was such a long and storied career with the Buffalo Sabres. The guy was drafted by Buffalo all the way back in 1999. He became the full-time starter for the team in 2005 and eventually won a Vezina Trophy as the best goaltender in the league in 2010. It was around this time frame where Ryan Miller was seen as one of the best goalies in the world, and he was so good the entire time he was in Buffalo that it's kind of difficult to go out there and discredit anything that Miller was able to go out there and do. He had a .929 save percentage in 69 games in his Vezina winning year, and had a .946 save percentage and a .135 goals against for Team USA at the Olympics. By the way, golden goal scored against Ryan Miller. After the Buffalo Sabres started getting bad, though, you had yourselves Ryan Miller, who bounced around to a few other teams. He played for the Blues for a quick ending stint in 2014 before heading over to Vancouver and posting up a .911 save percentage in 45 games played in 2014-15 over there. He had a .253 goals against and a positive record, and he was so good that the Vancouver Canucks made themselves a playoff berth with the Calgary Flames in the first round. Now, this is kind of why I say that Ryan Miller was a little bit too good for Vancouver, because the 3 seasons he had, he was really good the entire time. The first season, the Vancouver Canucks were, actually good. The Sedins were top 20-point producers. Radim Verbata had 30 goals, and he was a top goal guy in the entire league too. But the next few years of Vancouver Canucks hockey kinda sucked. And even though Miller was good, the team was in a position where they were just so bad that it was kinda difficult to watch the product and say, yeah, okay, I'm confident that this team can make the playoffs again and do what it is that they did in 2015 again. This is part of the reason why I sort of believe that because Miller was as good as he was, if the Canucks had bad goaltending in 2015 and they didn't go as far as they did, making the playoffs and everything, they might have been able to execute a rebuild a little bit sooner under Trevor Linden's vision and guide, but I'm not really too sure if that's really worth talking about anymore. Either way, Ryan Miller eventually made his way over to Anaheim at a .928 save percentage in 28 games to kick off his tenure over there, and then he posted up a 9 goals against average. Yeah, you heard that right. He had a 9 goals against average in one playoff game in that playoffs. Eventually, he played his last season in 2020-2021, has retired since then, and now his number is going to be retired by the Buffalo Sabres as one of the best goaltenders ever. Okay, maybe that's a tad hyperbolic. One of the best American goaltenders ever, if not top 3. There you go. That's a little bit more accurate, isn't it? But as I said at the top of this video, when it comes to Canucks fans and Sabres fans, both of these parties absolutely love Ryan Miller. And a lot of Canucks fans will go out there and say that he was part of the reason which made 2015, 16, and 17 sort of easier to digest because, hey, at least the team has a goalie that's not bad. The reason I'm making this video today, and I know it took us 4 minutes to get here, but come on, I wanted to talk about Ryan Miller, he's such a cool dude, is because Miller recently made some comments on Vancouver Canucks goalie Thatcher Demko that were highlighted by Rick Dhaliwal on Twitter the other day that I thought were pretty interesting to talk about. This is what he said about the Canucks' newest netminder. He has so much raw talent. I shared a camp with him and saw his work ethic. He is technically strong, but also old school with his athleticism. You guys have a good one. Fun to watch him. He is arriving in his prime. Now, that's a simple tweet, pretty much saying that, hey, Thatcher Demko's a good player, and I don't want to go out there and disagree. But when a guy like Ryan Miller is going out there saying that, yeah, this guy is going to be in his prime, he is so strong athletically, he is old school, he is fantastic, makes me a little bit more excited into seeing what the future holds, especially when you consider just what exactly the Vancouver Canucks are and what they've been trying to build the past few months here. The JT Miller extension earlier this month pretty much puts the team in win-now mode. They're forcing that window of opportunity open with a crowbar, even though it might have been jammed shut at the prospect of any sort of JT Miller trade. But with the way things are right now, Thatcher Demko is probably the guy that is most fit to being in sort of a win-now, quote-unquote, type of territory. We know Hughes and Pettersson are probably going to get better as their careers go on. Demko might even be the same as well. But if you want to go out there and say that the Vancouver Canucks have quote-unquote playoff performers that show off in the big moments, in the spotlight, and can help a team win playoff series, Thatcher Demko is probably one of the biggest names on the team right now in being able to do that. He's 26 years old. He'll be 27 by the end of 2022. And he is smack dab in the prime of his career, making $5 million a season till the end of 2026. The Vancouver Canucks have a window of opportunity that is open right now because of this guy. I don't need to remind you what Bubble Demko is like. Actually, you know what? Let's remind you, because the numbers are so ludicrous, out of this world crazy, that it makes my mind just absolutely shatter itself into pieces every time I see it. In 4 playoff games in the postseason in the bubble, Thatcher Demko had a .64 goals against average and a .985 save percentage. Just incredible, and that was 2 years ago. Demko has gotten more seasons under his belt. He played his first full season as a full-time number 1 starter in 2021-2022, and sure, he had some down moments in there, but he still had a winning record. He had a .915 save percentage. That's not bad in the slightest. This guy is learning what it takes to be a full-time NHL starter. He's gonna have a pretty good backup in Spencer Barton next season, and with everything that we thought Demko would be back when he was drafted by the Canucks in 2014, it's kind of nice just seeing the development path go this well. Sure, there were a couple of surgeries thrown in there, and sure, he had some time off with recovery time and everything, and there was some hiccups in the road, but now Demko is here. Like, I'm old enough to remember back when he was drafted and still thinking, yeah, this is a young guy, he could be the goalie of the future, he could be the next Corey Schneider because, you know, Boston College over to the Canucks AHL team, eventually making the Canucks after being a good backup to overtake the starter position and run the guy who was currently number 1 out of town. That almost happened with Schneider and Luongo. It did happen with Demko and Markstrom. The story here is cut and paste. But at the end of the day, Demko is already like a top 7 goaltender in the league, bar none. You have Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, 1 and 2. You could interchange the order, depending on the day, I guess. You also have yourselves Jussi Saros in there, Ilya Sorokin, Jacob Markstrom is in there too, and then I guess you could say Hellebuck when he is on his game, and Demko. You could probably swap around spots number 3 to 7 in Saros, Markstrom, Demko, Sorokin, and Hellebuck, depending on, you know, just how they're performing week to week. But Demko is already there, and he's only 26 years old. He's going to get a lot better. But he's already good enough to justify some sort of ranking that says that, yeah, this guy can be, let's say, a Vezina caliber goaltender sometime down the line. I mean, Jacob Markstrom took so long to eventually become what he is today, and, I mean, he was a Vezina finalist, so what more do you want? And so, at the end of the day, when it comes to Ryan Miller going out there and waxing poetic about Thatcher Demko, it makes me very happy. I think it makes a lot of other Canucks fans very happy, and I think it also just gives a lot of Sabres fans more things to cheer about, because, yeah, look at that. Ryan Miller's cheering on the future of American goaltending, because you do have some pretty good young guys in the Americas coming up and becoming good goaltenders themselves. Demko is obviously the big fish. You have Jake Ottinger doing some incredible things with the Dallas Stars. We're going to have to wait and see whether or not his goaltending dominance from the playoffs is going to translate into regular season success, but either way, talk in the comments your thoughts about Ryan Miller giving his approval to Thatcher Demko. What do you think about the future of Demko? What do you think about everything I said about Miller and how good he was for the Vancouver Canucks and how bad it might have been that it caused the Vancouver Canucks to not go through a rebuild? I've been of this philosophy the past few years, and I've talked about it in a few videos in the past, so you can let me know in the comments what do you think this time around. But talk to me either way, all your thoughts about Demko, Miller, the Canucks, and everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj for 99. And bye.